Once again, the lack of coordination between FAA controllers has caused another high-speed reject, this time of a Southwest Airlines 737-800 jet here at Southern California San Diego Airport on Friday, the 11th of October. Here's what we know so far. Like most airports, there's a lot of NOTAMs, notice to air missions here at San Diego, and one of the more important ones is the construction going on taxiway Bravo between Bravo 6 and Bravo 4. That portion of the taxiway at San Diego is closed and has been closed for some time due to construction. With San Diego's single runway operations, that means jets that come out of the terminals located down here need to cross across the active runway, which is normally runway 27, in order to get in the conga line of aircraft here on Charlie before they can turn around and take off. Now on Friday, Southwest Airlines Flight 785 was cleared to taxi across runway 27 here at the Bravo 6 intersection to proceed on to Charlie, and at about the same time, that was by the ground controller, and at about the same time, the tower controller cleared Southwest Airlines Flight 1478 for takeoff on runway 27. The ATC controllers realized their mistake and notified Southwest Flight 1478 to reject their takeoff, stop their takeoff roll, as Southwest Airlines 785 was beginning to stick its nose out towards the runway while attempting to cross at Bravo 6. But by the time the Southwest pilot got the memo to reject the takeoff from ATC, that was about almost 30 seconds into the takeoff roll, where we'll review the ATC tapes. That put them into a high-speed reject mode. Anything above 80 knots is considered high-speed reject, and according to passengers on the airplane, it was a very violent rejected takeoff, but they were able to get the aircraft easily and safely stopped and turned off of the runway right here at Charlie 6, just a little more than halfway down the runway. There were no injuries. Southwest 785 was also told to stop his taxi across runway 27 here at Bravo 6, and Southwest 785 mentioned that he had already crossed over the hold short line. Southwest's Flight 1478 had already been delayed quite a bit due to flow control out of San Diego before they were finally cleared for departure. Let's pick it up on the combined audio tape from Real ATC.
Southwest 1478, Limerick Tower, 27, line up and wait.
Runway 27, line up and wait, Southwest 1478.
That's 1478 cleared to line up and wait on runway 27 after quite a wait for flow control that morning.
Southwest 785, crossing 27 Bravo 6, continue taxiing via Charlie.
Cleared across 27 at Bravo 6, continue taxiing via Charlie, Southwest 785.
There, Southwest 785 is cleared to cross runway 27 at Bravo 6 and continue on to Charlie to get in the conga line of aircraft waiting to depart on runway 27.
7 clear for takeoff, Southwest 1478.
Okay, on a separate frequency, the tower frequency, we did not hear the tower say so, but that was the pilot of 1478 responding that they have been cleared for takeoff on runway 27. At about the same time, Southwest 785 was cleared by the other ground controller to cross the active runway at Bravo 6.
Southwest 1478, cancel takeoff clearance. Southwest 785, hold position.
Hold position, Southwest 785. We're past the whole short line.
Roger, just hold position, please.
Say again?
Cancel takeoff clearance for Southwest 1478.
Southwest 1478 is rejecting.
Southwest 1478 is rejecting. Note the time difference it took from the time that ATC notified 1478 to stop or reject their takeoff and the amount of time that it took 1478 to acknowledge and respond to the rejected takeoff. That's why this was a high-speed reject. That amount of time from the time that they were cleared until they rejected the takeoff was well over 80 knots. And the data will, from the flight data on board the aircraft, they'll be able to decide or determine exactly what speed that this reject occurred. Now, regarding these radios, 1478 is on the tower frequency. Each airliner has several radios, but when you're in a busy environment like this, you're normally only monitoring the one frequency. you can have both tower and ground frequency tuned up. You can have the ground frequency turned down on the volume, but the radio can be so busy and so congested that it's generally considered the clearest thing to do is just to have the tower frequency up and the other frequencies turned way down so that you don't miss any radio calls. I'm bringing this up because the pilot doesn't have the situational awareness to know that the Southwest Flight 786 has been cleared across the runway in front of him because he's on a different frequency. He's on the ground frequency. And he may not even see that situation developing, especially if he's slowly inching out towards the runway. On the 737, like most airliners, they have a RTO position on the auto brake selector, and that RTO position is selected for every takeoff for just this sort of event. If in the event that you are above 80 knots and you rip those throttles back to idle, you will automatically get RTO braking or rejected takeoff braking. That is maximum braking, maximum anti-skid braking to all the available brakes to get the aircraft stopped. And this will be done automatically. Also automatically, the ground spoilers will flip up on the top of the wings, which will spoil the lift on the top of the wings and get the weight off of the wings and onto the wheels to maximize your braking effectiveness. And this RTO maneuver above 80 knots can be quite violent, and I had a chance to speak to one of the passengers that was on board the Southwest flight, and they said it was quite a violent, fairly high-speed reject. The passenger I spoke to sounded like they were, to him, it felt like they were just about ready to begin to rotate. Remember, you can reject a takeoff all the way up to V1, your takeoff decision speed, and still get the aircraft safely stopped on the runway. Well, these guys did such a good job that they got it stopped within just a little over half of the distance of the runway. The passenger also noted that the Southwest aircraft came to a slow taxi, cleared the runway off to the right, and then pulled the aircraft over to the side before addressing the passengers, but that everything felt very well under control on behalf of the Southwest Airlines crew. San Diego's runway is just over 9,400 feet long in total. This Southwest flight was able to get this rejected takeoff done in just over 5,100 feet. San Diego Airport, of course, has this large displaced threshold off the end of the runway because of this darn parking garage located right over here that looks something like this on short final. So because of this parking garage, you got to land beyond the displaced threshold down here. But this displaced threshold is allowed for takeoff. So when Southwest Flight 1478 was taking off, they were taking off from the very end of the runway down here. And if you've ever flown into San Diego's airport, you'll never forget this parking garage located right here. Years ago, we used to bring the Boeing 757 in here, and that was an excellent aircraft for this sort of a approach and landing. Once 1478 cleared the runway, they needed to pull over and get into their checklists. They needed to look at what speed did they reject the takeoff at, look at their charts and find out how hot their brakes are going to be, and figure out just how long they needed to cool down those brakes and or if they needed those brakes inspected. Once they got all that done, they decided they also needed to return to the gate to get more fuel to continue on to their original destination. So they took off some 3 hours later. So 28 to 38 seconds from takeoff clearance to rejecting the takeoff is pretty far along in your takeoff roll sequence, meaning it's going to be a fairly high-speed reject, but the aircraft systems are designed for handling these sort of rejected takeoffs, and the pilots are continuously trained on rejected takeoff procedures. They regularly practice it in the simulator, making it virtually a non-event to the pilots and crews that operate these aircraft. But this lack of communication and coordination between ATC controllers is the continuation of a trend that we're seeing here in the industry. And in response to this particular rejected takeoff, the FAA issued the following. An air traffic controller canceled the takeoff clearance for Southwest Airlines Flight 1478 at San Diego International Airport because another Southwest plane was cleared to cross the runway. The second Southwest aircraft never entered the runway. The FAA is investigating the incident, which occurred around 9 a.m. local time on Friday, October 11th. Southwest Flight 785 crossed this hold short line that is effectively entering the runway area. We don't know how far into the runway he proceeded before he too was stopped by his controller. But this is a bit of a double standard on behalf of the FAA. If any of us pilots had crossed this line accidentally and it was our fault for crossing that yellow line, you know we would be in a heap of trouble if that was our fault. We would be getting phone calls or phone numbers to answer and reports to fill out. Now, I'm sure the FAA is going to be investigating this and doing their own internal review. But to downplay it with that sort of a statement represents a double standard between what's required by the FAA and what's required by the rest of us out there flying the line that just won't stand. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.